Hey guys, welcome back to a brand new topic, a brand new episode of the Controversies with the Truth, God, and Justice Chick podcast. This is your host, Saskia Chick, and thank you guys so much for coming back for some more controversy and some more, risque stuff to talk about. So today's episode is going to be definitely asking for it, asking for some hate, asking for some, it's one of those topics, it's a literally black and white type of episode. You're either pro life or you are pro death, aka choice. So yeah, today is gonna be something. Today we're gonna get into it. So I'm back with my black and white filter. Figured it was suiting the vibe, I guess. So I'm back on here and sharing my view and my opinion, or sharing God's opinion too, not just mine, on the matter of pro-life or people call it, or it's called choice, but it's really pro-abortion or pro-killing the innocent babies. So let's be blunt about it. So yeah, where shall we start? I don't know if you've already listened to my audio recording of it. I always record, by the way, as a side note, I always record separately. I do YouTube where I make my videos, and I record separately from my audio episodes. So it's kind of like playing catch up when I do my videos. Anyway, so lately, I guess it hasn't been a huge topic lately because politics is, stealing the show in a way, which, it is quite bad currently. So, it has been for the last few years. So, but anyway, yeah, the whole Roe v. Wade, I guess in some states, victories. I'm gonna be honest, I'm not up to date on the laws. Like, maybe I should have studied those first, but I'll just, I come on here relatively unprepared because I want it to be authentic. I don't want it to be, read off a teleprompter or proctor, whatever it's called. And I don't want to be too rehearsed like I would probably usually do it, because I don't want it to be, sounding unprofessional, or like it's just, whatever. Anyway, so I'm not up to date on the laws, so don't come at me with that hate, because it's just, I'm not here to be exact on all the laws. I just give my opinion, and I give for some reason it bothers me when I say I'm just giving my opinion, because it's really a matter of God's word. It's a matter of what's right. And I know a lot of females have a problem when they hear this, because you want to be able to choose, right? Because it's your body. And you can choose what you consume for food. You can make those relatively unimportant decisions. You can choose what you dress in, what kind of clothes you dress in, or if you exercise or not. But when it comes to making the decision, which is usually a very, I would say, irrational or very spontaneous or too emotional of a decision of whether or not to keep a separate, and we're emphasizing on the term separate, another life, whether or not we let him or her live or just abort him or her. Now that's a different scenario. That's a different whole different ballgame. So I always say you can have the famous phrase, to each their own. That applies to, in my opinion, right? You always have to say that multiple times. That applies, like I mentioned a couple minutes ago, to unimportant things, matters, unimportant things. Oh, you don't like the color pink? Okay, cool, whatever. You don't like this meal that I cooked, or you don't like that food, or you don't like this type of music. All right, whatever, to each their own. But when it comes to, oh, well, it's my body and I decide to get an abortion tomorrow. No. That's not how we can get out of things that actually have an effect whether or not another person is allowed to live or not. So this sounds, right, super radical, super harsh, super honest, super blunt. Yes, I guess if you are, you most likely, this is going to be sounding maybe new to some, but most likely if you are offended by this, then you must be, quite honestly, most likely a liberal, or in other terms, a Biden voter. I said it. Yes, I said it. You can leave me some comments on what you think. That's fine. But it doesn't change the truth. It doesn't change facts. Your feelings are, in most cases, relevant. But when it comes to having the right to end another person's life on basically or technically a matter of convenience, that is, what's the difference then from murdering someone? It is murder. It is. You can beat around the bush with giving me this explanation and that explanation. In the end, it's murder. Of course, there are many different reasons why a woman chooses this tragic, most, I would say, very, it's just literally horrific decision to make, because it haunts you. You can't tell me this doesn't haunt you. It will haunt you in one way or another for the rest of your life, whether it's by literally being judged by God, or you feel immense guilt, rightfully so, or, you can't tell me you can go on with your life. And I know there are women who are just so disregarding of what's right. I guess you'd have to be, I don't know, do you? On a more softer note, I almost feel empathetic for, the females who don't have a sense of, who don't feel guilty. Maybe it's because is it borderline psychopathic? Probably not the right word, but it's not the right term maybe. But if someone does not feel any immense guilt or sorriness or whatever you want to call it for terminating a child's life, who could at the very least have a good life with another person to call mom, And, so there are, of course, the most liked, what am I trying to say? The most used, probably, instance in which a female would choose abortion, not, of course, all the time, but probably at least a quarter of the time of the women would be raped, unfortunately, or molested, incest, or whatever. Completely horrific and traumatizing, yes, of course. And most people would get an abortion, right? So that's a tough one, right? Because people would be like, well, in that case, right, at the very least in this case, it would be okay. It's a hard one to say it's right or it's not right. In my opinion, if that's the case, and this sounds maybe too easy, it sounds not too easy, but it sounds like, when you have men in their shoes, it sounds like an easy thing to say when you say, well, it's a very convenient thing to do because you don't want to be continuously reminded of the incident, and you don't want to incidents maybe. And yes, but in my opinion, you would be in the perfect, I know it sounds horrible in a way, you are in the perfect position to give up the baby once it's born because you don't have any attachment, right? And of course, I can already hear someone tell me, so you want them to feel reminded about the rape every single day of this pregnancy? It's going to haunt you if you don't deal with the trauma, if you don't get professional help, or more importantly, if you don't give it to God. It will haunt you for the rest of your life anyway. So why make the situation worse? And now it's easy to say, right? But still, would it make your situation any easier by feeling even more guilt, by terminating the little baby that really God forgive me for saying this, he or she would be a product of rape, but more or less he or she still has a right to live. So you would have no ties usually to that child, where if you were a very selfless person, if you would be a person who wouldn't just see the convenience of termination, in my opinion, that would be what someone should do. But I don't know. I have no idea. This is just, assumption, or this is just speculation. But I don't think that there's probably a person who has gotten pregnant by rape who probably carried that child. I don't know. No, I'm sure there are cases, but it sounds just very rare thing to do. And not saying it would be easy, not saying it would be, but again, the right thing versus the wrong thing that you will get judged for one day. Of course, my stance and my opinion is based on multiple things. I mean, the general fact of it, the stance on how many people are dealing with infertility, and you're just throwing it away, he or she away, like it's garbage. So that's, me as a personal, it's a personal matter of how hard it was trying to conceive. I've had a really hard time multiple times, and so of course, you're gonna be your opinion is most likely going to be much different. There's that. Then there is I don't know if you've seen the movie Unplanned. Unplanned is a movie about pretty much Planned Parenthood and abortion. It's on Prime, Amazon Prime, I think you can find it. I believe it's called Unplanned. Watch that. That shall do a little bit too. Or I've watched a ton of Planned Parenthood undercover footage. And don't get me started on selling of body parts, of fetuses' body parts. Don't get me started. It's the most, it brings tears to my eyes, really. So, understandably, having all these factors involved, there's no other way than being pro-life. Yes, you don't hear this much because everyone, or not everyone, but a lot of people, especially non-believers, will be like, oh, but it's still her decision. It's still her choice. She gotta have a choice. I'm not letting a male judge making decisions, on behalf of my body. It's still, every child is created by God first in God's image. And God knew your babies, everyone's babies, before they were conceived. That is not a speculation. That's not a just thrown around word. It is the word. So I had to give my opinion on this matter because it's so widespread and it's just absolutely horrific. There's nothing ever positive coming out of this. Nothing. Not for the baby, not for the mother. I mean, I'm sure there are, I think we all know at least one person who's had abortions, or just one, or even just one. But it's wow. You almost want to feel sorry, but then again, we all have to face the responsibilities of our actions at the very latest when we stand before God. Yeah. God have mercy on your souls if you've chosen that. And you can tell me 1,000 different reasons. You were a college student. It wasn't the right time. You were homeless too. Homeless. But there's always the option for adoption. There's always the option to consult with an adoption agency. There's always that option. And stop being so darn selfish. It is selfish because it's a convenience. It's a convenience to go to an abortion clinic and just get rid of it. It's a convenience. And I know on a personal level, I know at least one person who's had multiple abortions, and it was, I would say, a matter of inconvenience. If it's a life-threatening situation, there's really, like I said, I don't know if there's no reason will ever make it okay. Of course, if it's I think at the my personal opinion, maybe if it, I don't know, it's something to think about, I guess, but I would say maybe if it if your life is in danger and you have to choose, maybe, I don't know, I guess the very, 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 very rare incidences where it's not, still not okay, but if you have to do it, pray about it, ask God for forgiveness. If it's, you know, I don't know. I don't even know if I wanted to say that, like, but it's always, yeah, it's a big controversial topic, and especially if you're not a person of faith, you will not get it. You won't get it. You won't. Nope. Then there's the late-term abortions, which are, I mean, that's really going worse. That's really, I mean, that's, don't get me started, please. That's just, what possesses someone, I think, would be the accurate question. What type of demon are you possessed with? Really? To ever consider even a late-term abortion, or any abortion, of course, but especially after the first trimester. I mean, come on, that's demonic. And then, of course, there is the and there's, what am I trying to say? Then there is the matter of getting a not so good diagnosis about the health, about your baby, where doctors will recommend terminating, or most likely, or selective reduction in cases of having multiples. And it's just, there have been so many cases, right? This is not just like speculation. I've heard of so many cases where parents have gotten an horrific diagnosis of their fetus, and how sick he or she will be, and how he or she will most likely not be viable. And in so many cases, when they start praying and they turn straight to God, in those cases, they were, surprised is not the right word, they were simply blessed by an opposite of an outcome. The child might have not been completely healed, but in a much, much better place than the doctors assumed. So trust your Lord more than trust your doctor. Yeah. Oh, there's so many other or more really examples that we could get into, but I think this will do it for today. So thank you guys so much for listening to me babbling on about a not so nice topic, but very important to spread awareness on, and share your voice. And I know there are not many women of this breed. There are not many women who, unless, like I said, unless you are a very biblical woman, which I'm not a perfect follower of Christ. I'm not perfect. I'm not, but I know the fundamentals of God's word. And I know what he wants and what he, So thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll hear each other next time, or you'll hear me again next time for my next episode. As always, you can find me on Instagram under Truth, God, and Justice Chick. You can find me on TikTok, on Truth Social, Twitter, my brand new website, www.truthgodandjusticechick.com. I'm on Podbean and Buzzsprout for podcasts, Google Podcasts, tons of other avenues. So that shall conclude today's episode. Thank you guys so much for giving me the time of day. And until next time, signing off.